Hi there, this is Ronnie coming at you with a video. Really should have done this yesterday, but other things were happening, so I couldn't. On Monday night, we finished our last session of a Call of Cthulhu campaign being run by Jason, the Rogue DM, on the Pair of Geeks 2 channel. Do subscribe to them. Pair of Geeks and Pair of Geeks 2. There's your plug. Being run by Jason and with Becky, the other half of Pair of Geeks, and Phil and myself as the players. The campaign was called Dreams of a Bygone Age. Ran for 10 sessions. And amazingly, for a Cthulhu scenario, we all survived, although we were all sort of the worse for the wear for it, particularly my own character, but we'll get to that. So, going to break this down into a few little bits, nothing long, but a few little bits. Firstly, what did I think of this scenario? Loved it. Lots of twists and turns. It was well paced. You know, I am in awe of Jason and Becky when it comes to GMing. Little bit where I kind of find myself going, feeble attempts, but yeah, it was really good. Lots of twists and turns. Good pace to it. Really enjoyed it. What do I think of 7th edition Call of Cthulhu? I like it. Whilst I'm very at home with 3rd stroke 4th edition, and have played a lot of that, and obviously ran a lot of it because 4th edition is the one that I own. 7th edition does very well. I like the sort of unifying mechanic of making everything percentile. That keeps things easy to keep track of for the players and simple for the GM. The luck points mechanic is good. I can see how that might be abused by some players. But yeah, it worked well. I liked it. I think the system is good enough that I am considering now getting the Investigators and the Keeper's Handbook for 7th edition to run it at my friend, the local gaming store. I'm very tempted by that. I like that idea. As usual, good camaraderie between myself, Becky and Phil, which I think is absolutely essential in a game, especially a horror game. How do I feel I did as a player? You know, I'm quite happy with myself player-wise this time. And it's kind of a broader subject I wanted to bring up. I didn't play a Call of Cthulhu character, and what I mean by that is when I was creating the character, I was playing a sheriff, and Jason was, interestingly, not setting it in the classic period, so 20s and 30s, but he wasn't setting it in our modern day. He set it in the 80s, which is pretty much where Cthulhu Now, which was the modern day Call of Cthulhu, started, because Cthulhu Now first came out in the 80s. So I was playing a former New York detective who was now a small town sheriff, and I was pulling from tropes of sort of classic 80s cops, be it TV or film. You know, he was he was always there with a sarcastic quip and trying to make light of the situation, mostly because he just completely bamboozled by everything. It was way, way, way beyond his area of expertise, and he was very, very sort of, you know, taken aback by it, and he was using humour. But when I was creating the character, I didn't want to create a character that would survive a Call of Cthulhu scenario. I created a character for what, you know, he was a cop who just happened to get involved in this strange series of events that he got caught up in. And I get a little annoyed when I see people making Call of Cthulhu's characters, because no matter whether they are an old professor or a young debutante or a star athlete, they have the most amazing spot hidden roles. And the reason for that is that they know fine well, as players, spot hidden is a really great skill to have in an investigative game. But if it doesn't make sense to the character, I don't see why you should take it. For me, having a cop who was an investigator, you know, made sense that he had spot hidden, although it wasn't particularly high. It made sense he knew how to use a gun, although it wasn't, you know, it's probably his best skill actually. But I wanted a rounded character. I didn't want to make a Call of Cthulhu character. I didn't want to game the system. I wanted to play a character. And the fact that he wasn't min-maxed to be the perfect Call of Cthulhu character, to be the perfect, who could survive so much, played in its favour, and he went completely balmy by the end of it. You know, he for those who have never played Call of Cthulhu, one of the most devastating mechanics in it is the sanity score. You start with a certain amount of sanity. It's based on a sort of percentile. So the most you can ever be is 99% sane, because we're all a little bit nuts. And lower and lower and lower and lower and lower. And if it ever went to zero, then you've went completely off your tree, and you actually become an NPC. It's like a second way to lose your character. Now, I started with 55, which is just above average. I ended the game with 28, so I lost about half my sanity through the entire 10 sessions. And when I say I lost half my sanity, I was losing some and getting some back, and losing some and getting some back, and losing some. But, you know, over the course of it, by the end of session 10, I had 28 sanity. The upshot is he lost his job as a sheriff and probably spent several months convalescing in a sanatorium, just to try and get some perspective. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a great scenario. I'm really pleased with my playing. Thought we balanced out rather well, and yeah, I'm looking forward to the next game with that group, which is Phil, because essentially we're all having turns running something. So I guess at this point the turnabout started with Becky, when she ran her corporation game with 3 of us as players. Then I ran a quick Savage Worlds game. Jason has then run his Call of Cthulhu game, and it's the turn of Phil, who's running D&D 5th. So I think it's 5th. It's D&D anyway. So I'm looking forward to that, and then it's, you know, it'll probably be Becky's turn again. We'll just go round and round and round and round, and people running stuff. So yeah, those are just my thoughts on how I think the campaign went. Really enjoyed it. They're all up there to be watched. I'll probably do a link. Thanks very much for watching, guys, and I'll be back soon with another video.